All right, so for CPI today, we'll go over these little trades here that we had seen in the beginning. So we have 5 minutes, no tag GP triple. Okay, so 5 minutes, 3 candles, all with no tag golden pockets. We fibbed that high low out. And then we had seen a little push and sweep into our favorite 3618 extension and shorting down to the 2618. We said we could only play this one under 23,169. There's a lot of volume there and obviously a really big shelf that we're kind of looking at here as support. So with that little sweep, not too bad. Came back down, just did the regular scalp, and we're good to go. So plan for CPI. Well, we have a huge rush, obviously, up through the night. So we're really, pounded our way back up here. Looks like we got another big old algo there on Qs. Let's delete this. We'll focus on this one. So what we're going to do is we're obviously going to wait till the CPI candle comes out, right? And we're not going to be messing around with pretty much anything else here. So where's our, there we go. So here's our top project. Actually, these are already locked. So we're just going to play with the anchor view apps on this platform. As this is 1% away from payouts, we want to get that 10K. So what we're going to do is very similar to what we had seen last night, right? We had the opening candle right here on this crazy reversal candle, right? So this was the opening pop to wash. We shorted this. We had that big 116-point run, and then it left this paired gap. And on the 1 minute chart, we actually have that double for value gap we talked about on YouTube as well. So if we go back down to that open, it's quite important to note, and we talked about this in chat and just said, remember this. We'll put some lines on it, but this is a fair value gap that was tapped into here. And I only play the doubles, which are, usually on 5 or 15. This is on the 1 minute. I don't pay attention to the 1 minute unless it's continuation. So we covered this in the YouTube video. We put an anchor VWAP open, high, low, close on the bottom, right? We have inverse double fair value gap, right? So it comes up, back test the gap, continues, right? That's not filled, so it's still going to be open. But more importantly, that anchor view at first tag. So from the lows, pushes back up, first tag, continuation. We add a little bit of Fibonacci love to that for that opening high-low range, and that opening high-low range gives you a very nice push off the anchor VWAP's golden pocket right to the 1618. So those were some of the biggest key takeaways that we had played through there. So we're going to remember a couple of those key points. We have a couple, obviously, from the flush up here through the night into all-time highs and getting a little bit of the all-time high sweep here and then dropping back down for our short, right? So that all worked out fine and dandy. For the candle, right? So the hurry up and wait strategy. So we're going to put those anchors on. We're going to come into here and talk very briefly about most of the cues. I probably could have did this a little later, but we'll chill, do a longer recording here for it. So a couple takeaways. Obviously, that's the force up overnight. We continued a little bit higher, started shying away that 3618. That 3618 in the neon green, remember from yesterday, is that high-low algorithm here. And that high-low algo led us to a beautiful 1618, which is, again, very close to the opening range of NQ that we had just showed you. So this beautiful one right here over the GP to the 1618. And as we discussed, we wanted to keep on to that long side, anything over that golden GP, right? So we did get those, and now we're at that 3618. So the interesting thing about these is needing, well, not needing, but a very good thing to watch for is going to be the high-low here from this algo. I'm redrawing it because the bottom was a little off and I didn't like it. And that's going to give us the 3618 at 560, about 15, right? So if CPI drains us up, right, pushes us up, forces us up, right, we can have that CPI candle mix with whatever this algo does here, because we have this algo very cleanly kind of shying that 3618, creating itself and then slamming into the 1618. When this does that, those golden pockets, when they're really close to something like yesterday's highs and the 2618, we can get back test of that. So even if the CPI rips us up, and we don't know what CPI is going to do, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is why we play the opening candles of CPI. We're not going to sit here and bother with, woulda, coulda, shoulda, like what should we, we're not predicting any of that. We have to see the first couple candles. So if that CPI does push us back up here into a live scenario where that a new candle appears from CPI and pushes us to 560.15, and we get a live tag of the 3618 from the algo back there we just discussed, we can see it flush down to 558, right? And if it does continue weakness back, but that's the secondary leg isn't what we're really worried about. So the best case scenario would be to see a live tag of that 3618 from the algo here, right? And then bring it back down to the 2618, similar to what we just covered in the first part of the video for the 3618 on the triple GP, right? So when we see stuff like the volatility index, let's bring this over here, needing some back tests first of obvious moving averages, because when we broke over that 100 EMA at the end of the day, we gapped down, we needed to come back to it. That's just more often than not, right? But because we're at all-time high, FOMO all-time high, we do know the sentiment of July, right? So psychological sentiment of the summer month July, 92% of the time ends green and strong. So when it's at all-time high mixed with green, strong July, you're usually not worried about super hard sells. And the VIX could even come back down and fill some of those GPs that it needs to. So if we do start to walk back down, we do have this big range of the golden pocket here. From the daily from 2 days prior. And that's going to be a big one for a magnet to the downside. So let's say the VIX does stay under the 100 EMA. We start getting weakness under those lows. We could start coming down to the bottom of that GP candle, and that would actually range us up for the early part of CPI because the VIX can't get too much support here. If it does hold right here or live tags here and then comes back up, we can reassess that during the open, because with the VIX going up, we're going to get this hopeful pop on CPI and down to the 560. Now, we did leave some very, very important things down here as well. So we're going to go to the 15 and we're going to mark off a couple different things between 5 and 15, because that's the fave, right? So if you don't want to use the algo systems or anything like that, you do have this 15 candle, okay? And why is this 15 candle so important compared to all the other 15-minute candles? Well, we go through our steps. We have a no golden pocket tag. We got a 666, 200 SMA, 100 EMA, and 10 SMA tag along with that no GP. So this guy is going to be quite strong. And we'll set this for neon green as well. Of a candle. And just to give you a reference between an opening 15-minute candle and an algo, I do want to make a point into this video of what we're talking about here, because algos do work very well, okay? But if I had to take a pick between a pre-market algo wick and a dominating 15-minute candle that has this many connecting points with no golden pocket, I would choose this 15 over the algo, okay? So I wanted to show the difference between those two guys first, and then as you come up here, you're going to see where the old algo was right here for close to the 3618. Again, it got close, it's no big deal, but that 3618 here rejection, really, really nice. And the algos in pre-market know it, right? And what do we focus on the most with Fibonacci? Well, live tags, right? So after hours, no. Pre-market, no. So we're going to focus on the live tag of 55971. Okay, so between those two differences, I just wanted to show you on those two candles. We're going to move this down and we're going to go, okay, even if it wants to hold a gap up, we're expecting downside with what we have to 15 minutes, 30s, and everything else just for the early session. Even if it goes back up, that's perfectly fine. We're not trying to play every play, but we will look for a live tag, right, which would be best case scenario, and under 559.71 on the Qs down to the 2618, right? Now, what else do we have here? Well, lo and behold, the new algo that was just made as we started the video as well has a golden pocket here. That golden pocket leads us to our target one short, right? So T1 short if live tag 3618 hits and down. So this is a trade that we're going to watch for. And we're going to watch for this whole GP and 2618, right? Now, that's the whole setup for the CPI, pre-CPI. This is how we set it up, right? And it doesn't matter what we get. CPI could launch itself all the way back down. We can reassess, and I'll show you exactly what we're going to do through there as well. But more often than not, at a full all-time high July, I don't expect a full washout. I would really hope it pops. SPY, and we'll set up on the other side here. Whoopsie. Can't seem to get my clicks right. All right, and for the SPY, you're going to notice that, we did talk about that early algo right here, coming back down, had to stay under 627.27 to come to GP. Now it's kind of finding that support. Best case scenario again for a pop. We're going to go to that 15, and we're going to notice that we don't have that special candle in QQQ that has all of those interaction points, right? Obviously, there's going to be a 15-minute, but the GPs were done. Does it hit a whole bunch of markers? Yeah, no, it totally does. We have the 200, we got the 666, got the 10, but we just don't have a no golden pocket tag. Well, that doesn't really delete the candle from existence. We can still use this candle. We also have another option right here, which go over here in a sec. And then you're going to see that exact same thing. Very close. So there's not a whole lot of divergence, which is the most important takeaway here between two Fibonacci's when we are trying to stack that data. So when we have that 15 and that 15 matched now on SPY and QQQ, let's focus on a couple different things here, right? The 3618 tap, our favorite scalp down, right? Awesome. Well, 5-minute we're going to go down to. We have that algo here too. Now, what do? These are 15-minute fibs that we're going to leave on for CPI. Now, 2 options and only 2 options can apply here, right? The SPY is the better market, so we're going to watch that one continually. We do have a 3618 as we just discussed on that 15. But what do we do if it just plows all the way back out and the CPI just nothing burgers us, right? Well, we have to use that 2618 as an over-under. Now, pre-market has already hit the 3618. In algorithm sense, what I've noticed and what I've journaled about over the years is that if that 3618 does hit in a pre-market, it does have a pretty good chance to come back. Of course, nothing's ever 100% in the market, but there's a very good chance of getting a live tag if it pre-market tagged. Okay, not always, but in today being CPI, it's not going to be as clean as we'd like, but we're still going to pay attention. Now, the other thing about the Fibonacci here that we can cycle is if it does come all the way back down, fakes out right on CPI and it does gives us a nothing burger, we can actually reverse this candle and use the 2618 as support, and we can end up getting the long trade to the 3618 live tag, right? And we plan for this just because we want to know where a longer standing time frame is for fibs, and we're planning for this because we need to know which side it's going to pick first, right? Because dominating right now, we did have that short, and let's talk about a couple things now. Get you in here, buddy. Let's talk about a couple things now on the NQ side of things, because we got a few things to chat about. I'm going to leave that there. The big one I'm going to delete, and we do have a 1-minute gap again unfilled. Okay, so if you see the 15-minute here again, I used that 15-minute, which was the same exact strategy as yesterday's breakdown, right? We had a large candle, 5-minute no-tag GP that was associated with a 1-minute gap, 23.053. So now we're getting more data, right? It's telling us more and more things. So now it's looking more and more like, right, as we accumulate data, that the CPI is going to sell down, especially after rejecting that 3618. Again, we don't know what's going to happen, but the way the magnets work for algos, we could end up down at this 1-minute gap pretty easily. The best case scenario for us is coming into that 2618 support, letting it hover, which all the levels we just talked about on the QQQ and SPY 15, and then make a run for that baby to the downside. Now, worst case scenario, which we're kind of seeing right now, is we already talked about the VIX rejecting the 100 EMA and coming down to the GPs. We are no longer in that scenario, right? We have the push up, the gap under, and we have now returned for a breakout of that 100 EMA. Now, the last 2 things I want to talk about before we do the open here is what we had seen for the support on the dailies, right? And what we can do with the intraday. Now, this huge monstrosity of a candle up is pretty massive with those anchor VWAPs, and we most likely will return to some of these. Let's back up here a little bit. Some of these breakout points, like the prior highs, because when something snaps over a prior high, very old, very normal stuff, it back tests that high. Prior resistance becomes obvious support, right? Oldest trick in the book. So when we see that, when the return is mixed with those Fibonacci's, we could also magnet back here for live tags on the ETFs. So we do have to remember that. These candles here also do exist. We can't forget these guys. These big 15-minute no-tag GPs are very strong magnets too. So when we get a lot of those, especially around moving averages, which we already covered these on SPY and Qs, you just got to be mindful, right? And we do have, let's go to, I think there's one other gap that was, it's ES actually. If I remember correctly, yeah. Okay, so we're going to get into the last little part here before we set up and wait. So the daily here on the 10 SMA, right? There's a lot going on the daily with no-tag GPs and everything else, but the most important is SPY, like always, right? We're going to come into SPY. and we're going to note why it did that bounce, right? When something gets over that 10 SMA and we have a runner, okay, big run in the market, it gets over, it didn't really gap, it gapped here, but it didn't gap through the 10 SMA, okay? So as you can see, the candle is hitting the 10 SMA, but it did create a gap and go, right? Ran to the upside. Now this gap and go is runner material. And then when it consolidates, and we see this all the day intraday too, whenever we get a force up algo scan, what do we wait for? First tag of the 10 SMA pushes us back up, right? And look what it did after hitting the 10 SMA yesterday. This is where we're freaking talking about in pre-market right now, right? Quite the move off the 10 SMA, excuse me, for that whole shot. So we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to mark off the all-time high. We're going to come into the intraday. Oh man, she's sliding good. And then we're going to watch for an over under at all-time high between these two fibs as well. So I do want to know where the all-time high is, if we're going to open into all-time highs, if we're going to open under all-time highs, because these traps do exist. Like imagine being a big short, you know, that came in at the end of the day and you got forced up on the futures, and then CPI is the catalyst to smash you down. I don't think it's going to smash down forever and just die off, because more often than not, obviously, statistically, July is the green month, but we do need to be aware of that 10 SMA daily push first tag that we got. So our day trade levels will be as such. We're going to wait for the CPI candle. We got a whopping, 4.5 minutes left, and we will play accordingly here. So let's get our anchors ready here. And again, I'll try to show the anchors here kind of while we do this, because I do want to focus on those anchors because they are very, very fun to use. All right, so this is the setup. We got the algos. We don't need any sentiment candles on here because we know if it's near the 2618 we find support, it goes 3618. If it pops back up in CPI, we don't want to do too much predicting because, well, obviously it's CPI. We have no telling what we could do here. My favorite trade, remember, live tag of the 3618s. More often than not, we have seen when price action in pre-market has hit a 3618, a lot of the times we can return to that for a live tag and then do our favorite failure short. Does it have to happen? No. Statistically, it should. We have a pretty good trade day for that. So what we're going to come into now is hopefully a beautiful candle to the upside. We are going to mark off that beautiful candle upside with some of these beautiful anchors here, and we're going to use ES, of course. So we get the best market ever. And what I'm doing is I'm marking that all-time high anchor as well, just so I know where that special anchor is, okay? I might want to, no, let's leave it white. So we have approximately 3 minutes left to wait, a couple minutes to spare, and we will see what we look for right meow. So we do want that pop up. We want it to chase back up 3618. Please don't long it from here. It's not a trade call. Best case scenario is watching it slam into both this 3618s, right? Let's make some notes even just for fun. For anybody that's joining late, didn't see the whole breakdown. And this is best case. You know, we don't have to do any of this stuff at all. I'm not really interested in the CPI full FOMO all-time high today, just plowing it up here. We could see the opposite. We'll see. I would like to see the opposite. Alrighty, about 2-minute warning here. We'll get our candles all set up. And a lot of the time, too, during CPI, if we get that big candle, none of this stuff matters. So what we do is we take the RSI and MACD, we tell it to go kick rocks because there's no possible way for it to keep up with some of the impulse moves that a CPI does. So remember, we have a lot of stuff to the downside, and that's my biggest concern is a pop to drop. If we just liquid out down, well, we'll have to play the open. separately, and unfortunately we won't get too many other fantastic plays. The best case scenario is literally slamming all the way back up towards that 3618 and then finding that track down. Make these all a little bigger so we can see a little easier there. All right, friends, 30 whole seconds. Show you to run down this baby. So again, best case scenario, those 3618 pops. Really want to see those. So shrink this down maybe a little bit here. There we go. Helps a little bit. Want to see some of that pre-market algo wick action there. And regardless what we get, we don't gamble any of this stuff. It's real easy to trade. We're going to sit tight, sit back. Not going to worry about too much here. We're going to play ES on the main account here. I'm not going to do too much else with that. All right, nice little green candles there. All right, that's what we needed. So that's the expectation, was to rip up. That's what we wanted to see. That's the best case scenario for us. So we needed to slam up, get very close to the 3618. Now hopefully hover right above or right near, right? And for the 1 minute candle we have on ES, we always like to drop an anchor VWAP on that bad boy, and we're going to let him calculate to the first tag long because we're over the all-time high anchor right there. We're pushing through. We needed to magnet back up to that 3618. Hot CPI, yeah. I'll post the numbers here in the chat if you guys wanted to see it, but again, we're going to be mostly short biased here, and what I'm going to do is slowly add into the 3618 area position once we get up there on ES. Not going to do it right now. Now I might long to it, right? Because we have the our fun little anchor VWAP here that's going to start calculating, because we will rip back up towards that 3618. Now that's there we go. That's the goal, right? Because the magnet to the 3618, since we already hit it pre, that is a big deal, like we said. So I'm going to start in just a couple shorts up here. And again, I'm going to be anywhere around here on ES, which is going to be fine for me. I'm shorting in the 3619. Now we fully expect a live tag of this. And what I'm going to do is most likely cut the video because we don't have market open for another bajillion years. But I wanted to get the pre-market video all done here, and then we can come back and see how those predictions and see how those plays went. So okay. Now remember, first tag VWAP here. So buy bid rate now. Okay. So we got a long position at 6337 pretty much there, and that's going to be the first tag of the 1 minute. What we always like to do too on all indices, all whatever, we chart off this, but as we know, we are most likely going to open above or at 3618. So we are now taking the first tag, oh, excuse me, 1 minute anchor VWAP, and it's okay if it fails down a little bit here to the GP, because we're going to play super tiny. Because the main account, we went on a couple of shorts. That's the huge one. We're trying to scalp up to the 3618 for the open. And again, if we do not get that, it starts to fail under the all-time high. It's going to be a huge short metric for the rest of the day under all-time high. So we'll stop out of that and jump on that. Right now, we're just holding that 1 minute anchor. We're looking for the GP of the 1 minute, which we just tapped right there at 6335.50. Generally where we're going to get support. Remember that all-time high anchor from back here, also a great over-under, okay? So anywhere above 6334 is a great spot to be. We have a 3-point buffer down to that GP here. And again, what we're thinking is going to be an all-time high prior hold to go here first. That's first. And then if sentiment shifts and scams, then it is straight down. Oh, huge down under all-time high. But that's for later. So we're looking for this 1 minute GP. We're looking to get some momentum above the 6337 entry here that we got. 6337.50, I should say. We got a pretty good amount because the ES were on the large account here, coming up on the other cash account. So, yeah, we should be fine here, but we got a pretty sizable position right now. So we're looking to get, oh, excuse me, this stupid cold. Looking to get a breakout of this 100 and then kind of range up a little bit. And again, even if it's above 628, 627.83, whatever it happens to be, should be okay. Trying to get the first scalp, though. The first scalp is the one where you put your anchor view app open, high, low, close for on the first minute candle. Comes down to that GP, starts to hold that anchor, starts to hold the golden pocket, and then has a chance at making that upside kill. 3% is the new 2%. Yeah. So I'll probably get out a little bit when we get back to highs again, as this sizable position is just a scalp, very small. So we're going to look for that to break back up to that 100, maybe even break out a little bit more than that. The 1618's up here at 63.48. We'll see on that one. We got our first 5 minute done there on the CPI as well. So should be breaking out here soon. We'll see. We held that 5 minute right here on SPY's GP CPI candle as well. So we'll see if Q's drags us down here a little bit, gets us that GP. But the bad part is SPY still has that headroom to the 3618. Q's is way over it. That's why we're longing the SPY just for the initial first scalp, just to get that 337 up to, you know, like 342, 344, whatever the next break up would be here. No 50 tag yet either. We didn't even backtest the all-time high anchor. So again, it's a little early on there. And like you said, it can just chop until we get that 3618 open. So I'm going to end the recording there. We're going to see how the play plays out, but I'm going to come back and we'll do a recap on the CPI setup for the next video. So on this second installment of the video, as we talked about early, we had the anchor view apps that we had placed here from all-time high in the 1 minute to run us up. We got out at equal highs here, netting us some beautiful gains here. Got 3K across the Tradeify accounts. We're already locked out on the 12 on the other, but now we need the live tag gain, right? So the one watch for here is the rejection of the 3618 as we discussed. So we're going to move these up. We're going to do the live tag of the 3618, and then we're going to look for that shorter sentiment. So right off the bat, we did get our open and tick right into the 3618. That's what we're looking for. And the magnet for Qs is going to be just a slight difference, okay? So 361 is obviously under us in price action, so the QQQ has to come back down to 55971. And we got to start to see the rejection from either the top of the data or anywhere in this area here. This whole zone just pushing. We're going to be watching for the short zone here to fall. And these scalps can be rather quick. What I should do is throw the VWAP back on here. Then we'll drop her down to the 1 minute. There we go. So I'm going to click a few shorts in here. We have a couple starters, 6339.75. And now I'm going to go short here down to at least VWAP and GP live tags. Stop zone is obviously going to be way above the 628 up there, because we do have that 3618 live tag now and an opportunity to at least sell down to the GP. So shouldn't be too crazy here. And again, that NQ downside is going to be nice too here. So I got a really tiny starter here. We want to kind of see it push back up to and just kind of sweep those highs, you know, like scan past the 3618, trap the longs, and then slam it down. But if it doesn't, we're already short. So no huge deal there. We're not going to lose out on anything too crazy here. Got some NQs as well at 23,199, just under that 23,200 break. And we are killing. Target hit, 3618 drop on the NQ, confirmation reject there. Order filled. We love that. Order filled. Give me another one of those order fills. Okay, I closed out the NQs coming into the 3618 target, keeping on the ES shorts. Still 63.40 pretty much, within 8 cents there of the entry. We're working with about 5,000 some dollars in P&L this morning on the main account, about 5,100. We're up almost into the 8K now. Beautiful, beautiful tap rejection on the 3618. As we discussed in the earlier part of the video, we were going to get into that 3618. We were going to tag into here, down to the live G, and then, of course, final sentiment would be a full pull day all the way down to the 626.17. And again, those beautiful 15-minute setups here on the Fibbies helped us out. Now, one of the other things we're going to look for here is underneath the algo on Qs. So your next stage of attack is staying under the 3618 and coming down into that GP if we start to see that confirmation clear house. We still got all of our shorts on an ES. We get one more little low break here, back test the all-time high, and really start kind of clicking down to the all-time high level. I'll probably get out right down here. Got another $500 to $800 to made here. But every little bit of this was called before it happened to the 3618 live tag, long to the 3618, turn back around, and we'll have this whole video recording up today. Should be. Put on YouTube too, but all the goods. In and out. Yep. All right, so I'm getting ready to close out a bunch of the ES here. Remember, we shorted right here, the 3618 all-time highs right here. We got 10 whole points, and that is massive with a 15p start. So closing out right now as we hit the all-time high prior. Boom, and order filled, 6331. And that's how it's done, boys. The whole process was discussed there. That was awesome. That's going to make a good video. 87. Not bad. And of course, we already posted all the P&Ls for everything else from last night too. So we got the 1,200 times 3, 1,000 times 3, and then the big 87. So, dome. All right. Rest of the trade day is still going to maintain lots of good trades here. So we do want to get out of the all-time high. Probably going to spike down a little bit more if there is an opposing entry where we could pop off the prior all-time high, which is going to be right here. And let's say we get that range back up and it starts to give us another structure break, lower high, lower low. We will still target the final. It might just sweep and just go and flush, which is fine. We made our money. It's in our pocket. We're not worried about the rest of the day. Absolutely stunning play here. So we'll end the recording on that one, and if we do come back for a third piece to this, to a part 3, I'll go over the next entry exit from this exact call into the final target of the 2618.